Hey, come in, y'all. Let's talk about the Housewives. They started season 16, and the ladies did not disappoint. But before I do, let me introduce myself. I am Sasha, and on this channel, I react to and report on celebrity news, gossip, and reality TV. Now, let's get into it. The intro came in hot with Shamia. She wants Porsha to step her best friend game up. Then Kelli was bragging about how good she made her marriage look as they brought it home, with Brit talking about how Kenya blasted her with the blowjob pics in the conversation she had to have with her mother afterwards. Now, Oakley's wife threw in remarks about her marriage, and Drew mentioned that she still lives with her ex-husband. Then they let that audio roll of all to come throughout the season, which let us know that if you came here for the mess, you are definitely in the right place. First up to bat was Porsha, and can we talk about how pretty she looked in that red dress and the matching lips? That shade was beautiful on her complexion. She talked about what she says went wrong in her marriage. According to Porsha, on top of him not being the man she thought he was, they also had financial issues, ignoring the fact that she got with him while he was still married to her castmate. But let's continue. She talks about the stress she's going through while getting that divorce, still living in the marital home with her daughter. And I'm sure that stress level has dropped a little since Simon is being detained by ICE. Then production cuts away to dramatic scenes of Porsha complaining to her sister and her mom about what went wrong. I mean, and she put on a good act. There were tears and everything. In the next scene, we have entered Sterling Hall, which is Shamea's estate. Shamia talks about how they paid $9 million for the mansion, and it was the second largest real estate purchase that year. Shamia says she does not brag about her wealth. She is just letting the girls know to put some respect on her name. She introduces her father, sister Glenda, and other family members she says she is close with. Shamia talks about her talents and believes that she could do it all, and I love to see it. Shine your light as bright as you can. Shamia lets us into her world, the things her youngest daughter Shiloh is going through with medical complications and all. She says they love having children and do intend to grow their family. Shamia was glad to explain how she met her husband and how he got to the money. In case you missed it, he builds, manufactures, and installs HVAC systems for the airports and other industries. Shamia is long-winded, and production asks her to speed it up, but she continues anyway. She even gave us TMI and shared how she blew his bathroom out on the first visit to his home, and he still wanted to date her anyway. Shamia loves to talk. She explained how far back her and Porsha go, and through that friendship, she met Cynthia and Kenya. Shamia says she met Kelli when she came on a radio show, who she considers a friend. Kelli is friends with Brit, but Shamia says she already knew Brit from back in the day. According to Shamia, they let their hair down and titties out. Shamia and Drew have history. They've worked together years ago on a biopic for TLC. As they hung out, Shamia met Drew's friend Angela. And so we'll get to see how these friendships blossom or fall apart, adding the pressure of reality TV to the mix. Now, Shamia talks about how she doesn't really know Angela that well yet, but does know her husband Charles, and she looks forward to hanging out with her. Just in case you don't know Charles, he is a former professional basketball player. Oakley is best known for playing 10 out of his 19 seasons in the National Basketball Association with the New York Knicks. As a power forward, he consistently ranked as one of the best rebounders and defensive players in the NBA. Listen, Shamia has claimed her position at the gate. She says she is the glue that keeps all the girls together. The next scene is of Drew throwing the football with her kids in this gorgeous pink and purple jumpsuit. Then the talk with production. She mentions her messy divorce, which has played out for all to see. Then a knock at the door. It's Kenya in Brooklyn, who is 5 now. Brooklyn runs off to play with Drew's daughter, and Drew gives Kenya a tour. She tells Kenya about how her and Ralph went to court and now have a court order that moved him into the basement of their home. And I don't know how they do it. When you are done with a person, that should be it. Kenya can't help herself. She says, not banished to the basement, then let out a quick laugh. I'm sorry, she is shady without even trying. Kenya can't help herself. She says, not banished to the basement. Kenya asks Drew, does she need permission to go down there? And Drew tells Kenya that Ralph now has a separate entrance and that she must leave their home 2 weeks out of the month to give him full access. Drew talks about how she thought Ralph would move out since he liked being in the streets and describes him as being the messy one in the separation. Drew moves on and tells Kenya about how she's opening for Tank in Chicago. Kenya mentions that she is from Detroit, and Drew responds, and so is Dennis. And Kenya caught that shade immediately. Drew proceeds to tell Kenya that she is working with Dennis on her music project. The scene then cuts to Porsha telling Dennis that she is pregnant, and another scene where she is doing a strip tease. But let's get back to Kenya. She asks how Porsha feels about it, and Drew claims that Porsha is okay with it. I don't think that Kenya believed that, and neither do I. Drew takes it a step further. Calls Dennis her angel on earth. Look at Kenya's face. She reminds Drew that Porsha once was trying to sing and act. Why didn't Dennis help Porsha? And Drew says maybe he wasn't doing music then. Drew says Dennis got Porsha's blessing. She's looking at Drew like she has lost it. For Drew's sake, she better be right, because we all know that Porsha will nuck if you buck. Next up is Kelli. The scene is set with the afternoon tea party that she held for her oldest daughter's birthday. Kelli says she's a single mom of 4 daughters whose ages range from 8 to 17. As the older women at the event sit down to talk, Kelli tells them all that her divorce should be final in 2 months after taking close to 2 years to get to this point. Her soon-to-be ex-husband's photos were blurred, and I don't ever remember this happening before. The closest thing that I can recall is when Lisa Wu was on the show and her ex didn't allow those kids to film. Now, Kelli did say his name, but I won't be repeating it, because if he didn't allow his during those 11 years of marriage, police were called, and Kelli said she didn't feel safe, so she's glad to be out of that situation. Kelli is originally from Baltimore and says she got to Atlanta in 2003. She is the owner of Nana's Chicken and Waffles, which she named after her grandmother. Kelli has a 24-karat maple syrup that has been featured in Forbes, as well as other food products that have done very well. Have you ever tried any of her products? Let me know in the comments. Kelli's kids were not seeing their dad at the time that this episode was filmed. I hope that all has been worked out by now. Kelli gave her daughter 17 designer bags for her birthday, and they were all so very cute. Now, in the next scene, Porsha is going to see her divorce attorney, Randy, who represented her in the divorce from Cordell. But things look a little different this time. Porsha tells Randy that she won't just walk away. So I've heard from other content creators that Simon paid for the house they're fighting over. However, Porsha says they have 50-50 interest in that home. She was expecting her and Simon to have a happy life until she realizes there were some things she noticed were odd. When they traveled, they would have to get in a secondary line at the airport. Porsha claims that when she found out about Simon's immigration issues, she exposed all the allegations of fraud and scams that Simon was convicted of. Porsha says the only way she could protect herself from what Simon was dealing with was to enforce the prenup. And the only way to do that is to divorce his ass. But I call bullshit and don't believe that she didn't know he had issues. How could she not? It's easy to access someone's background, especially when they have history of breaking the law, because that is public record. They had to be married for a certain amount of time before the prenup would become valid, and Porsha allegedly filed for divorce on that exact date. It's given Porsha ran a play on old Simon, but that's just my opinion. Porsha says she tried to talk to Simon since, which didn't go well as he has shut off any communication with her. Then she gave us some more tears, girl. As she dabbed her eyes, she said she must continue to move forward in these courts. She takes us down memory lane for a second, then says that the person she thought she was married to wasn't real. Brit and Shamia and Kelli are out having dinner and drinks as she gets to know Brit, who says she is an insurance agent. Kelli tells Shamia she's proud of how she's handling motherhood, as Shamia thanks her. She mentions her upcoming birthday party and how she was trying to be considerate of Porsha's feelings. Since she is going through it, Shamia is hoping for the best for her friend. Brit agrees and says that Porsha will come out on top. Then Kelli interjects with the fact that Porsha should have never taken that lady's man. And Shamia responds, whoa. She tries to walk Kelli back, but Kelli continues with that man was taken a little bit. But Shamia defends Porsha and says there was no overlap. Shamia is still windmilling hard for Porsha, but production did not let her cook because they provided the receipts. Simon and Fallon made their announcement that they would be divorcing at the end of April of that year, and Porsha and Simon followed up with their joyous announcement just 18 days later. That is the definition of overlap, Shamia. Shamia expresses her love for Porsha and that she feels obligated to have her back. Finally, Brit changes the conversation and says that she's heard Drew is dating Dennis, which is just messy. Shamia confirms she heard the same thing, even mentioned that they were in a club holding hands. Brit shares that people have told her that Drew is a mess. Kelli chimes in, Dennis was in her DMs, child, trying to get with her, but she didn't respond. Then Brit says that back in the day, she went on a date with Dennis. Brit said he gave her a diamond necklace on that one date, I would assume to try to impress her. And it was probably because she was in the music videos. Brit calls herself a video vixen. She says that there were no sparks and nothing happened. The shade is real because the next scene was of Shamia meeting up with Porsha at the strip club, with Shamia arriving first and Porsha trying to make a grand entrance. Porsha's just so rude with that. If we set a time to meet, don't have me waiting for you, ma'am. They make small talk as they watch the dancers do their thing. Shamia let her know that Simon had sent her a text congratulating her on getting a peach and becoming a part of the main cast of the show. And they talk about it for a moment, about how Simon has been all over the blog. Shamia says it's like he's trying to stay connected to Porsha, and I can agree with that. If I was in Simon's shoes, I would not have been online arguing with my ex while the boys was out here looking for me. What's wrong with him? Shamia to let Porsha know what the girls were out here saying, and of course Porsha didn't like it. She said the newbies are trying to smear her name. As if she didn't smear it when she stole the African king. Porsha accused Kelli of trying to promote the chicken shack off her name. Porsha didn't like that Shamia called Simon bro when she responded to him, but that's her fault. Porsha put Simon in Shamia's circle, so don't get mad that she has manners and can still be cordial to him. Shamia tells Porsha to take another sip because she has more tea, and Porsha is shocked to hear the rumors about Dennis being booed up with Drew. Porsha says that Drew has crossed the line because she has shown her support since they've been cool. Now, y'all know Porsha thought she would be able to double back again to Dennis while she looks for another man, but this time Drew has beat her to the punch. So they move into a brief cut of Brit and her husband, who is Michael Cunningham. It's said to be an investor. Then it quickly cuts away to Shamia singing to her mom. She has a nice tone to her voice. Next thing you know, we were looking at Porsha and Cynthia having a conversation on FaceTime. When Cynthia brings up Drew now being divorced, Porsha interrupts with, "Yes, I know. She is getting support from Dennis." Now, because Cynthia couldn't believe that was what Porsha was saying. Now it's time for Shamia's birthday party, which she had at Sterling Hall. Kelli arrives before the rest of the ladies, and Shamia wanted to have a talk with her before Porsha got there, letting her know how important Porsha is to her, and that she told her what she said. Well, Kelli kind of had that feeling. She had her own update to share. She knew that Porsha knew because Porsha had already gone on a blog to talk about it and was throwing shade Kelli's way. You know how Porsha gets. She act like she couldn't pronounce the lady's name. She had to expect it though. I'm sure she has seen Porsha in action on previous seasons. Kelli explained to Shamia that she is also going through a divorce and there was some infidelity from her ex-husband. Shamia says that if Kelli had questions about Porsha, she should ask Porsha, and that's fair. Because I understand where Shamia is coming from. She doesn't want to be in the middle of it. In the next scene, the Oakleys arrive and the theme is a white party. Now I know that Diddy kind of tarnished the whole white thing with the nails and his alleged freaky deaky mama. Still, I love to see us in all white, although we look good in anything. Now, Angela tells us that her and Charles have been married for 9 years. Then we see that Cynthia has arrived. She and Kelli introduce themselves and make small talk. Kelli shares with Cynthia how she just had an uncomfortable conversation with Shamia over Porsha, which kind of put Cynthia in it, and I would have said, talk to Porsha about it. But Cynthia politely let her know that she didn't want to be involved in the mess, as her and Porsha have come a long way. Then came Brit and her husband, who were greeted by Angela and Charles. Now the four ladies are getting acquainted, while two of the husbands stand in the background listening. Angela then says, put some respect on her husband's name, and I didn't get why. It was like she kind of got snappy with the ladies, I guess, but I don't know if it was edited out, the reason she got snappy. Not sure we got that why we got that reaction from her. Drew came in, and by that time the ladies are outside and Kenya was right behind her. Kenya introduced herself to the newbies and it seemed like it would go well. However, when they started to discuss who was married or who was going through a divorce, Brit talked about how she was on her second ring and Kenya asked was the ring from a different husband. Brit told her she has only had one, and Kenya came back with she thought she may have been married before it's all. It was just really weird. Kelli and Brit picked up the shade that Kenya was throwing. I thought it was light shade. If I was to measure it on a scale, Shamia finally makes her appearance and she is wearing a beautiful blue gown. Shamia asked if they had seen Porsha, but she hadn't got there yet. Now it's 7 p.m. and it's really noticeable. I believe Kelli says she's coming to the party later than you and it's your birthday to Shamia. And the way Shamia looks away is sad. Porsha should do better as far as Shamia is concerned. Like she said, she loves Porsha. The ladies kind of separate into smaller groups as Brit and Kelli get a chance to talk about how Kenya is nice nasty. Shamia's husband requests that she come outside to accept her birthday gift, and it's a Cullinan. You can tell she loves it. She's jumping all around with excitement, and all the ladies seem to be happy that she got this car from her husband. Shamia is now inside the vehicle checking it out, looking at the interior. Y'all know it comes with some pretty plush features. And here comes Porsha straight over to her instead of going to where the other ladies are standing. Now there's a man standing by Shamia. Maybe it's her security. But Porsha act like she didn't even see him. She steps right in front of him. She grabs Shamia's arm to let her know she's there. And some of the ladies are watching from the side. By some of the ladies, I mean Kelli. And she doesn't like what she sees. She couldn't believe how Porsha didn't give Shamia and her husband that moment to themselves. Then Porsha asks if they're leaving right now, and Shamia says they may. Porsha selfishly responds, but I just got here, acting like a spoiled kid, instead of just saying, hey, look, I understand. I'm sorry for getting here so late, which she did get around to saying to Shamia eventually when they were alone. Now, the next scene is of Kenya and Cynthia talking. Cynthia tells Kenya what Kelli said about Porsha, and Kenya says, hide your husband and hide your wife, and then bust out laughing, while Cynthia tried to keep a straight face. Next thing I know, Brit approaches Kenya. Then they sit down and talk and are joined by Kelli. So Kenya, being her messy self, she asks Kelli about the conversation about Porsha. But before she could get the gossip, Porsha walks up and sits down with the ladies, and Kelli gets right to it. She looks Porsha right in her face and asks her the same question. Why did you steal that lady's man? Needless to say, Porsha was mad as hell, acted as if she couldn't remember Kelli's name. Not dealing with the elephant in the room, Porsha ain't scared no other time to explain herself, but she refused to respond to Kelli. She asked Kelli why she led with that question, but isn't that what we all want to know? We tired of beating around the bush. Just answer the damn question. Why did you think it was okay, Porsha? I mean, because we want to know. Why did you think it was okay, Porsha? I mean, it's a good question. Porsha asks, is there something besides that she would like to know? Trying to make Kelli uncomfortable for having the nerve to be so direct. But Kelli doesn't back down. She again asks Porsha to answer the question. Porsha dismisses Kelli with, I don't even know you. But I love that Kelli stood her ground with Porsha. It reminded me of when Candy was a newbie and Nene told her, I see you, and Candy responded with, we see each other. Which brings us to the end of this episode. Shamia could be heard asking Drew if she's dating Dennis, and Porsha is sitting on the edge of her seat waiting to see what she says. I think the episode gave everything it was supposed to give, and I will be watching the next one. I look forward to Drew's response. But what do you think about all this? Let me know in the comments. That's all I have for this one. If you like the video, support the channel and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the like button, and I'll catch you on the next one.